Good to see that. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. It's been so long that this is the first time that we've had Tell&Act here in the club. It's been virtually for the past year, and now here we are in the actual room for one of these events, and we are thrilled about it. I just need to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. I need to point out your exits. We have an emergency exit up on stage, and there's one right back out the way you came. I'd like to get a big round of applause to Oliver, who is waiting on your tables tonight. Make sure you're good to them. Keep the aisles clear. Harvey's in the kitchen. Grace is on the box office. Abby is on the streaming computer. And we have a lot of shows coming up, so make sure you check our schedule at passteam.org and see all of the great shows we've got coming up over the next couple of months. We are kind of part-time now up until September, when we're going to be back full-time 7 nights a week with shows happening every single night. And we're thrilled to be here now with you. And we're going to send things up on... actually, before we get started, I also want a reminder to everyone to make sure you turn off sound on your devices. If you have a ringer on your phone, we'll take a minute and let everybody take their phones out and turn them on to silent mode. Because now that we've done that, if you're the person whose phone goes off, boy, are you going to look ridiculous. Thanks to everyone who's watching online as well. We are continuing to stream our shows. And so if you are unable to make it some night, you can make sure you tune in online. And I want to welcome Cheryl up here to kick things off here. Here we go, folks. Tell&Act.
It is so good to be here tonight. I want to give a huge shout out to Club Passim for inviting us back, to keeping us sane during the pandemic with your ongoing programming. I mean, Abby was hosting most of our virtual shows, and your smile is infectious. So thank you so much, Abby. And thank you to all that tuned in. And I know there actually are people watching virtually tonight, so thanks to you as well. My name is Cheryl Hamilton. I am currently the co-founder and director of Tell&Act with my partner in storytelling, Anna Collier-Willis, who you will meet very shortly. But previously, you might be like, wait, was that the girl with Mass Mouth? I was also with Mass Mouth. Mass Mouth was a nonprofit organization that Club Passim invited to start storytelling here once a month 10 years ago. Most of us in the room, shout out if you got your start with storytelling here at Club Passim. Woo! And we're just so excited to be here. Now, unfortunately, Mass Mouth, we went our ways during the pandemic. We had to close our doors, but Tell&Act is stepping up and carrying on the tradition, and we're so happy to do so, and we're so appreciative of Club Passim for letting us do that. So I will tell you more about Tell&Act throughout the night, but I'm going to review how this works at a slam here at Club Passim. But I just want to say on a real personal note, and forgive me if you're my friend who's heard this story too many times, but I have a 3- and 6-year-old nephews, and my brother, the 3-year-old, it's a weird time to grow up as a 2-year-old during a pandemic and try to make sense of the world because you don't have any, context. And so, most of his second year in life was watching television and staying at home with his parents and, a nuclear little family. And my brother said that last summer, he finally took the kids out, right, into a park. And my 3-year-old nephew, looked around, turned to my brother, and said, "Daddy, people." Like as if that was a crazy thing. And I feel that deeply tonight. I am with people I love dearly, and people I can't wait to get to know. So thank you for those of you that came out to discover and continue supporting storytelling in Greater Boston. But let's get to the storytelling. All right, so the slam style is very similar if you've come here before, and with a few tweaks that are different. Like always, we're telling first-person stories. We are telling them in 6 minutes or less. And as wonderful husband Steve here this evening is serving as our timekeeper, he will have a clock that in green will start with 6 minutes, and it will go down to 1. In the last minute, it will become yellow. So if you're looking at it and you see yellow, wrap it up, because after the last minute, if you go over, we're sorry, but you're disqualified, even though we love you and your story. Also, we're not having 10 tellers anymore. We're doing 8, because, why not? And if you would like to tell a story, we still need some people who are brave and want to throw their names in the hat. I will tell you that many of us came to Passim previously without expectation of telling a story, threw our names in the hat, and discovered and fell in love with storytelling. But Thank you to those who already have your names in the hat. We're about to draw your names. We're so excited. And the last thing that's different is Passim and Mass Mouth previously would have like quarterfinals, semifinals, championships. As we dip our toe back into storytelling, we're just going to go like audience choice tonight. Like, just keep it simple. You should have, and if you don't yet have a form for audience choice, we'll get one for you. At the end of the night, you're going to put your first and second choices, and then we're going to have a little count and basically celebrate those, but everybody. Cool? All good? We know how slams work? Are we awake? Fantastic. Awesome. So I'm going to draw the name for the first storyteller, but that person can chill for about 5 minutes because we always have what's either described as a feature storyteller or a sacrificial teller. This evening, it is my partner in storytelling, Anna Collier-Willis, who previously helped organize these slams, who joined me as one of those 1 and 4 professionals last year that changed their careers or became entrepreneurs. She and I started Tell&Act. She has a long history storytelling. She is one of the curator and coaches for Stories from the Stage. She's a wonderful mom, wife, woman, all kinds of things. She's going to be our feature teller, but let me draw. Drum roll, please, everybody. Thank you. Linda Grosser, you are on deck for number 1. Woo, way in the back. So excited. Thank you, Linda. All right, put your hands together, scream, whatever you want to do for Miss Anna Collier-Willis. Was it this one or this one? I'm like, oh, there's another one.
Huh, get that. I just want to add one thing. After 5 minutes, there's going to be a sound that Steve is going to make. Steve, will you just give us the sound? Yes. Thank you. Yes, come on. Thank you. And then, so that's after 5 minutes, and then at the 6-minute mark, he's going to do that again, but louder this time. Okay. Yeah. So, in my life, I have done many things. I have had many jobs. I have cooked, I've been a chef, I have waited tables, I've served behind a bar, I have picked avocados, harvested potatoes. That was really not nice. And I have launched multi-million dollars worth of ranges of new products that I've designed. I've lived all over the world. I've done all these really cool things, worked in all these cool countries. But about 7 years ago now, I kind of sort of hit a low point. And I found myself standing on street corners, like one particular street corner. Every now and again, I would try and get noticed, try and stop traffic, maybe a car, maybe a truck. I was a school crossing guard. Yeah. Now, and this is not a lowly job. That's not what I'm saying. No, it's a very respectable job. But I was kind of at a low point because I wasn't really very happy. I was suffering from really chronic, acute depression. I was finding it really hard to get out of bed. I was sleeping all day. I had kids to look after. I would try and put on this happy face, get up, sort the kids out, get them to school, go back to bed, and sleep, and sleep, and sleep. And it felt like I was kind of like knitting fog while trying to like wade through quick drying cement. And this like little job came up, and it was on the way to like take the kids to school. And I thought, well, you know what? I already take them to school. I walk them to school a couple of blocks. I could just like do that job and get a bit of pay, and maybe I'd feel a bit better about myself. But I felt so sad. But I did it, and it was kind of nice, and I crossed my friends, and then these kids would cross, and, you know, maybe one or two would say thanks, and the rest didn't even notice me. And I'd go home, and I'd feel kind of a bit more sad, and I'd go back to bed. And it kind of got worse. And then one day, I'm stood there, like drenched in my fluorescent yellow with my stop sign, and this truck pulls up, like really kind of urgently, and there's got blue flashing lights. And a door opens, and this policeman gets out, and I'm like, oh, it's him, it's my boss. And I'm like, you're all right, Matt, because he's got a face like thunder. He looks really angry, and he's not happy. And he looks at me, and he says, where were you yesterday? And I'm like, well, not up to much these days, so probably here. And he said, you weren't. I came past in my truck, and you weren't there. And I had to stop my truck, and I had to do your shift because you weren't there. And I'm like, oh. because I actually had no recollection of what the hell I'd been doing the day before. I presumed that I would have been doing it, but I still to this day don't know. I must have just slept through it. But he looked at me like I was some kind of criminal, and I'd done it deliberately, and I'd been paid all this money to do all this work, and I'd been conning them out of their money. And I just felt really teary, and he kind of said a whole bunch of stuff, and after that I didn't really hear, and then he finished, and I went home, and I cried, and I called my husband Steve, and I said, I really need some help. I don't think I'm very well. And he came home, and he said, I think we need to get you some help. And I kind of maybe felt a little bit better, having got to that point. But the next day, I go around the corner. I walk round the corner to my crossing guard shift, which literally just round the corner from my house. And there's two guys walking towards me, and one holds out a hand like this. And I round the corner and I go, oh, because I wasn't expecting to see these people walk towards me. And I'm like, oh, ew, and I just reciprocate and I give him a high five. And he smiles, this lovely warm smile. And I'm like, oh, because I had my sunglasses on, trying not to cry behind them and cover them up. And but for the rest of the day, I kind of thought, oh, this total stranger it looked like he saw or felt my sadness, and he gave me this high five, and he shone some sunshine into my heart, and it felt nice. And it just felt special. I needed that. And then as the time went on, every now and again, I would see him walking down the street towards me, and he would have his hand out. Sometimes he was with somebody else, and sometimes he was by himself, and I would give him a high five, and he had this big grin on his face. And then one time, I heard this sort of rhythmic kind of noise behind me after he'd gone past, and I turned around, and he was skipping down the street. Like what? Well, does this ever happen to you, But it just made me feel better. On those days, it was still hard, but on those days, it just made me feel better. And then one time, I was stood in the middle of the street, stop sign in one hand, and stopping the traffic, and he's walking down the street with a young lady, and he sees me, and he takes off his backpack, gives it to this young lady, and then does a run up and does a cartwheel next to the crossing. And I'm like, I love you. And he goes, I love you too. And he blows these kisses. And I do have to say at this point, he was a lovely young man, but he's probably more than half or less than half my age. And it wasn't a flirty thing. It wasn't an amorous flirty thing. It was just I noticed you and I want to cheer you up. And it cheered me up, and somehow I think maybe I cheered him up, I like to think. Now, as time went on, I did get some help. Turned out that I had a few underlying kind of health condition things, which are actually surprisingly not that difficult to sort of fix or manage, put it that way. And things started to get better. And then one day he stopped and he told me that he was going to be moving to Providence, Rhode Island. And there was people coming, and I had to cross. And I said, "Oh no, I'm going to miss you. But is it a good thing? Is it good for you? You're going to be happy?" And he goes, "It's really good. I'm going to be promoted." And I said, "Oh, that's really good then." And he gave me a big hug, and I felt better. And over time, I got lots better. I feel kind of relatively normal now and happy. And all these years later. But I never forgot him, and his name is CB. He lives down, or he did at least, live down in Providence, Rhode Island. So if you ever come across this guy that's giving you a high five or does a bit of a cartwheel when you're feeling sad, perhaps his name is CB, I suggest you look out for him. And in these days when we're all kind of a bit weirded out by this sort of pandemic thing, I ask you to all be a little bit more like CB. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Way to kick off the night. We were a bit deliberate when we picked the theme for tonight, which is out of the blue, because I hope many of us are stepping out of the blue that we might have been struggling with. But to be honest, when we picked it, we also didn't know that last weekend they commemorated Brother Blue, who was a famous storytelling ambassador here in Harvard Square. He and his wife, Ruth Hill, have been a steward of storytelling for decades, and they made a plaque last week. There was a big celebration in the park, and I thought, well, we're also out of Brother Blue, and we're carrying on his tradition here at Club Passim. So happy for that. Also, I am never going to think of a crossing guard the same, Anna. I'm going to pay attention to them, and I'm so excited that kids get to go back to school. If you're anybody like myself and others in the room teaching online all year, lots of feelings about that. But I'm really excited to bring up our first storyteller, but we have to pick who's on deck. Oops, hold on. I'm out of practice, got a year and a half. That's all I gotta say. All right. Number 2 tonight will be Scott Schultz in the front row. But for now, the wonderful Linda Grosser, please come up. Woo!
My sister and I are in Vienna, and we're waiting on the platform for the number 60 tram. And I'm standing there, and a pigeon craps on me. And there's an old woman there, and she smiles, and she says, you know, that means good luck. Everybody speaks English in Vienna. So this is a roots trip for Andy, my sister, and me. Our father and his whole family, they were all from Vienna. And now it was just us. And I'm on that search, you know, to find out where I came from, who I was. So I did a lot of research and got a ton of information about the family, including that my great-grandmother, Pauline, was buried in Vienna in 1942. Now, I am incredulous about this because not only supposedly had the entire family left Vienna in 1939, but hanging on the wall in my house is a needlepoint with a stitched signature, Pauline Lustig, 1877. And all these years, it's just been this thing on the wall. And now, out of the blue, I have family still in Vienna to visit. Section 10, row 3, plot 31. So we are in Vienna, and getting to the cemetery, we have to navigate this crazy maze of their transportation. But Andy and I are on a mission. We arrive. It's the Vienna Central Cemetery. It's the complete opposite side of the city, so clearly it's not central geographically. Anyway, we walk into these grounds, beautiful grounds, it's fall, there's golden leaves everywhere, and I feel like I am walking back in time. I mean, it's not just Pauline who's there. Beethoven, Schubert, Brahms, they are there too. So we find section 10, and we're walking down the row, eyeballing the names, and we get to the end. We must have missed her, so we go back. And now I'm counting. 28, 29, 30, there's nothing there. It's just grass. And I refuse to believe that we have not found her. And if I just look more carefully, we will, but we don't. We go to the office and talk to the woman there, Bettina. She goes to this metal cabinet, pulls out a big ledger, leather bound. It's got the pages that are that green color of accounting paper. And there she is, Pauline Lustig, plot 31. Pauline explains that a lot of time there was no money for a marker, or they would just randomly get moved. So I'm looking at this page. It's that old German fancy script, and I take a picture. I mean, at least I'll have something tangible to hold on to that we found her. So we go back out to the gravesite. It's a Jewish custom that you leave pebbles of remembrance on the headstone. And reluctantly, I just put them on the grass. And then I hear my sister, Linda, come and help me. And I turn around, and there's Andy digging in the dirt behind the headstone next to Pauline. So now here we are, these two middle-aged women grunting and yanking at this stupid slab of cement that Andy saw stuck in the ground. Finally, it comes loose. We brush off the dirt, turn it over. So on this stone, engraved, Pauline Lustig, 1865-1942. I don't know if I want to laugh or cry. I mean, here we are 4,000 miles from home, and we have literally unearthed our own great-grandmother's marker. We hug, we take selfies. We are just giddy with the joy of our discovery. Finally, we gotta go, so we leave. We stop and tell Bettina our great news, and we run for the tram. I guess that old woman was right. That Austrian pigeon, it did bring us good luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. I'm also forgetting to write things. It's really going. All right, so you can fill out on your audience form. The first person is Linda. The next is Scott. I'll draw the third name in a moment. But Linda, when I was 21, I moved to Acadia in Maine to waitress. And the first 3 days on the job, I had seagulls shit on me while serving people. And I don't think it's good luck. So I left and I moved to hyenas, but I'm glad it worked out for you. Pigeons might be different than seagulls. I'm not sure. But let's pull our third name, who will follow Scott in a moment. Also, I should say that one thing I love about the storytelling community in Boston is that we're really collaborative. We go to and support each other's shows. Linda is hosting an event on Thursday night in Newton that you could talk to her about called Storied Nights. You can find it online with some amazing storytellers. And our third teller is someone who also discovered storytelling here at Club Passim, Harold Cox. So Harold, on deck. But for now, Scott, who I think has been telling here for 10 years. Were you one of the first? You had to have been one of the first. Maybe. I mean, Scott was very early Mass Mouth, very supportive. And he just returned from Los Angeles to bring, we're so happy you're back from Los Angeles. That was a change during the pandemic, right? Okay, well, welcome back to the stage, Scott Schultz.
I just need to raise this up a little bit before you start it. Let me just get this up to the right. There we go. Tall guy length. Thanks. It's nice to be back. I've spent the last 9 years in Los Angeles. And while in Los Angeles, I produced and host a storytelling show called Busted Los Angeles, which is true stories about getting around LA, told by people who don't drive. So they're stories that take place on buses, trains, bicycles, sidewalks. I love public transit. I think it is a wonderful source for stories and storytelling. And I believe it's a microcosm of society. And at our shows, we have what we call the Code of Busted. It's not like a big manifesto or anything. It's basically just be cool, be cool to the people on the bus and the train that you meet. Treat the people that if they need help, help them. If they need assistance and you can assist them. Act as if treat the people the way you would want to be treated in another city or your loved ones. And, if you have to be an ambassador to the city or the bus, for a few minutes, do that. So with that background, it wasn't unusual last month when I was riding into the city from the North Shore, so I take the Blue Line. I decided to get off the train at Wood Island. I'd never been to Wood Island before. That's East Boston, just north of the airport, just south of Suffolk Downs. That is the route where Chelsea buses go in to the city in East Boston. It's one of the lower income train stations on the Blue Line, probably the lowest income area. And I like to get off the train, and this 10 minutes between trains, it allows me the opportunity to walk around the neighborhood and see how the train station, fits within the geography of the neighborhood. So I checked out the neighborhood, and it was great. I could see the walkways that are now alongside the train stations, and I think that's a wonderful addition to that part of the city. And then, it was time for me to catch my next train because I had an appointment in Cambridge. I was waiting on the bench. It was about a minute or two before the train arrived. I noticed some cards at my feet. Below the bench, it was an identification card, clearly. I could see a photo. I recognized a social security card. among others. So I reached down, I picked them up. It was a green card. It was a green card, social security card, something that looked maybe like a work card or maybe an apartment card key. It was all important stuff. And the train was coming. There was no one else at the station. There was no one working at the station because the T is kind of stripped right now. They're low budget. I had to make a choice on the spot. Do I ignore the cards and get on the train and make believe it didn't happen and hope for the best? Or do I take the responsibility of these cards and find who these belong to and reunite them? Code of Busted says there is no choice. Same with Code of Scott. So I take the cards and I set about finding who these belong to because I know how tough it is. I lost my license at the beginning of the pandemic. It is a pain in the butt. And, and this person's an immigrant, with a green card. And that might be his only identification. And, in this political climate, that's a big deal. You could get deported, detained, all sorts of you can't cash his checks, maybe not pay his rent, maybe not get in his apartment. So I get on the train. I go onto Facebook. That's my first step. I type in his name. The first name was Nathaniel. Last name was something Hispanic. Wasn't a common name. So I thought I'd get lucky. His name popped up, Chelsea. So I'm like, okay, that's probably him. I click on the page. Unfortunately, he's not into social networking. So the page is pretty empty. No photo, only 14 names for friends. And of those 14 friends, 7 of them are in El Salvador. Only one has like an English-sounding name, like a total Boston Sean Ryan type name. So I email him. I email Nathaniel. I'm like, hi, my name's Scott. I found these cards. Is this you? I found it at Wood Island. Contact me. Here's my information. I'll get these back to you. But I know that messages don't always get through if you're not friends with the people. So he might not even see it for months, if ever. So I decide to contact everybody on his list that's local, 7 people, all Spanish names. I wrote the same basic email, and then I put it into Google Translate, put it in Spanish, and then I sent it to all 7 people. One of the people in the group I felt pretty confident about because he looked like he was in a metal band out of Revere, because he was Revere, and I'm thinking metal bands, they always check their messages because they're looking for gigs, because I know this. I work in LA, with bands. So sure enough, the next morning, I get a DM from the dude from the metal band in Revere. He goes, yeah, Nathaniel, that's my friend. I contacted him. He said to call him. So I do. I call him up. We agree to meet. I meet him at Maverick Station, and I drop off the cards. He's super grateful, obviously. Nice guy. I actually recognized him from the train because he works at Veggie Galaxy. And so he wears his jersey every time he rides the train because he's going into work. I love Veggie Galaxy. Veggie Galaxy's sister restaurant used to be in the back here and would serve here, Veggie Planet, when I was doing storytelling here. So I love Veggie Galaxy. So I gave him the card, and then I ended up finding a bus that actually cut through Chelsea and East Boston and took me all the way to Wonderland. So I got to actually take the bus ride, which I always like to go into the actual heart of the areas. Yeah, it was really cool. Now he's my friend. Now I'll see him on the bus. I mean, we're friends. I become friends with these people. I see him on the train. So I recognize him. He's got the Veggie Galaxy. We're always like, hey, what's up? So, and it's always good. I can always use more friends. And, now he knows I got his back. I know he's got my back. And we'll see each other all the time. And, now I'll be in Boston, and I'll be riding the trains here and the buses and walking the sidewalks and collecting stories and sharing stories here. And I like to think that the Code of Busted is non-exclusive to any city, and the Code of Busted is non-exclusive to any person. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you guys this year.
God, that's so awesome. Some people here know that I've spent 20 years working with refugees and immigrants, and I know there's some people in the room also in that field, and they're like, "You are awesome! Like, way to go out of your way for that." But also, I'm quickly wondering what my Facebook profile photo is, and whether you would think I was part of a metal band, which I know I wouldn't. So I don't know. You'll have to look at our photos during the break and tell us what you would associate us with. I think mine's kayaking right now, which is very not metal. I want to take a second for people that are like, what's Tell&Act? Because it's a new name, less than a year old. Anna and I launched last fall, and it's flown by really quickly. We're very similar to Mass Mouth or other storytelling organizations in that we believe in the power, the transformative power of storytelling. But we also believe that storytelling can drive change and inspire action. So if you work for a business or a nonprofit, or you're a professional looking to provide instruction in storytelling or create really unforgettable events at your conferences, talk to Anna and I, because that's the kind of work we do. We also have classes online if you're thinking about I want to put my toe in the storytelling world. You can learn from us. Some other people here I think would endorse us. I took some classes. But also we also are the curator and coach for Stories from the Stage, which I will tell you about more afterwards. But right now at the intermission, I know some people in this room that also love Stories from the Stage. It's like Teresa's a host or something for it. But if you were someone that was I was on the Mass Mouth list, that list doesn't exist anymore. So if you want to find out what's happening in the storytelling world, during intermission, not during Harold's awesome story that's I'm sure coming up, go to the QR code and make sure to sign up for our newsletter for upcoming events, and also follow us on all the medias, right? But not till intermission, because right now, after I pull the fourth name, we will hear from Harold Cox. The fourth person before intermission is Sweta Bhatt. Is that last name Bhatt? Yes. Sweta Bhatt, awesome. So, but first, Harold Cox, please come up to the stage.
My out of the blue story is about flying. I'm one of those people who has a lot of difficulty when I fly. I have problems with my ears. I know that some of you have probably had those same problems, or maybe you know others who have. And they figured out what to do by swallowing or by chewing gum, but none of that stuff works for me at all. I just feel like I want to rip my clothes off, and I'm really sorry to give you that visual at this moment. But it is a horrible thing when I fly. Well, on one of those occasions, I was on the airplane, and I was having problems. The flight attendant came up and said, "You're having problems, right? I bet it's your ears." She said, "I think I know what to do for you." She went in the back, and then a few moments later, she came back, and she had 2 cups. You know, those cups that they put water and stuff in. And in those cups, there were 2 warm compresses. You know, she doused them in warm water and then put 1 compress in 1 cup, another compress in the other cup. I put them over my ears, as she told me. Worked. Absolutely perfect. It worked. I now have a solution for dealing with my problem with my ears. So I do this every time I get on the plane. When the plane begins to descend, I ask for what I now refer to as my big ears, cups with warm compresses. It works. Do this for years. And then one time I got on the plane, asked for my big ears as usual, got them. But as the plane got closer to landing, the airline attendant came back and said, "Sir, we need to take those cups because we can't land if we got any service items out." I said, "Well, ma'am, remember, I need these cups." She said, "Sir, we can't land the plane." I said, "Well, don't land the plane." So I said, "You know, I need these." And so we're going back and forth, and now we're arguing and loud, and she recognizes that one of us needs to be an adult. So she lowers her voice, and she says, "Sir, I need you to know this really doesn't work. This is what we give kids when they're having problems, and we want them to think about something else. You are a grown man. This doesn't work. And besides, you really look pretty stupid." I give her the cups. I can never use this again. I have to find another solution because I can never be that person that asks for cups like this again. So I decided I'll just purchase my own cups. And I started doing that. I would purchase my own cups. When the plane began to descend, I didn't always have the warm compress, but I found I didn't need it. I would just put it over my ears. Everything was fine. I did this for a long time. On one occasion, I was running late, and I didn't have any of the stuff that I needed, and I ran to the store, and I got toothpaste and soap and cups and a bunch of other stuff, threw all that stuff in my knapsack, and then I was on the plane. The plane goes up, it begins to descend. I now pull out my cups, everything's fine, except the woman next to me is having a problem. it is kind of difficult to be sitting next to somebody who's holding cups over their ears. And she doesn't know what to say. And I can see that she feels uncomfortable. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't want her to be uncomfortable, but I know it looks a little strange. And so I just said to her the only thing that I knew to say. I said, "Ma'am, would you like a cup?" And she just stared at me. And I thought, I know I'm in trouble. I do not know what's going to happen. And she said, "Yes, I would." And I thought, this is good. And I had extra cups, and I gave her a cup. Now, sitting next to her was a man who now is looking at this woman who has cups. And he is looking all across the whole plane to see where he could go, any place other than right here. And then he looks down at me. I have on cups also. And he just stared, and he said, "Can I have some too?" And I thought, this is good. And I gave him cups. I don't know if these people know each other. I don't know them, but we are now 3 adults sitting there with cups over our ears. The plane landed, everybody got off the plane. Now, anytime I get on a plane, I also make certain that I have extra cups because I know that I need them. But sometimes I've learned that other people need big ears too.
That's Harold. And next up we have. All right. Now, we do. Well, first of all, Harold, thank you for the laugh. We always need a lot of laughs right now, so thank you for that one. I did not know about the cups either. But I do know that we need a couple more tellers for the second half. And I know you're like, I really want to try this. Or people I know that are storytellers, I know you miss it. I know you want to stand in a microphone. It's been like a year and a half. So during intermission, see Anna or I, if you want to put your name in the hat, we are going to take a 10-minute intermission after Sweta tells her story. Again, 5 minutes on out of the blue. You know, anything you didn't expect. Maybe the last time you went scuba diving, maybe flying into the blue. Well, not out of the blue. I guess out of a storm. No, you can't really do that. Out of, never mind, don't do that story. You know, moments that you've felt elated after not feeling so good. Any of those. Think about it. Talk to your friends. But more importantly, this is your first time telling at Passim, right? New storyteller at Passim. So, Sweta Bats.
Thank you, everyone. It is summer in New York, and I'm standing on a crowded train. You know, the kind of crowded train that makes showering pretty futile. And there's this man standing next to me, and he has a 3-piece suit on. He looks really enthused and engaged. He must really love his job or his paycheck. And then there's this woman next to me, and she has this really cute woven beach bag. She's probably rich enough to have a house out on the Hamptons or know somebody who has a house out on the Hamptons, and I am neither of those people. I hate my job. It makes me miserable. And I don't have any friends with beach houses. Heck, I don't have any friends in New York because for the past 3 years, it's just been me and work, and it's summer, and it smells like summer, you know, that cocktail of sweat and piss and coffee breath. But all I can think of is the smell of the holidays in New York. That smell of pine trees at every street corner, the colors and the cookies and the carols and the movies, and the spirit that just warms me up from the inside out, even when the out is pretty damn cold. And you know what? When the holidays come, it feels like nothing else matters, but it's summer. But this summer, my sister is coming to live with me. She's doing an internship at an advertising firm, and I have volunteered to house her. And finally, because these past 3 years, I've been compiling a list of all the restaurants, all the thrift stores, all the museums and concerts that I want to go to, and now I have someone to share it with. But she's been staying really late at work because her coworkers are getting to know her and taking her out. And She has friends doing internships in the city, so they go to beer gardens and rooftop bars, and she also has other friends visiting her, and they go to restaurants and concerts. And much of the time, when she gets home, I'm already asleep on the couch with my laptop until one day, 2 days, she catches me, and I'm watching a Christmas movie on the Hallmark Channel. And she's laughing at me because it's July. And she asks me what I'm doing, and I can't even fake a smile. She sees the gloom on my face, and I say, I need this. I need this to make me feel better. She asks me if I want to go out with her. I say no. She leaves. I go to sleep. The next day, I get ready for work. I get back on the crowded train. I sweat through my blouse. I don't have another blouse to switch into, so I sit in that sweat all day. I answer the same calls from the same clients. I'm talking to my boss who's called me in for a meeting because he sees how miserable I look, and he's telling me, take a break, take vacation, while indirectly telling me, I can't afford for you to take vacation. We're really, really busy right now. And then my coworkers and I, we do lunch, and that means we're standing in the kitchen, eating and complaining about our days. And the day goes on, and I put my headphones in, and I play this playlist of songs that are supposed to make me feel better, like Lovely Day by Bill Withers and Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, and it doesn't make me feel better, and I end up making my way home. I get to my unit in my apartment building, and there's a wreath on the door, scotch taped. And I go to open the door, and I hear the deadlock hit. Wait a second. And then the deadlock opens, and she opens the door. And I'm standing in the doorway, and there are chills down my sweaty back. And every smell that I have just inhaled is dissolved by the fragrance of my pine-scented candle burning. And I see in the corner a Christmas tree with lights on it, and that gloom, that gray on my face, lights up. And I can't help but smile, and I hear Frank Sinatra, and I see Hallmark movies on the TV. There's even a stocking with Shweta written on it in bubble paint. She points to the table, and she shows me all these juices. I'm in a juice phase right now. And they're in alternating colors of red and green and red and green. And then she comes up to me with this bag from Whole Foods, and I fumbled through it, and I realize it's all the ingredients to make cookies. And she gives me this box with a bunch of cookie cutters in it. Ones of beach towels and ice cream cones and sunglasses because it's July and we're not going to find Rudolph or elves or sleighs. And she looks at me, and I'm looking at her. I can't stop smiling. I haven't felt this way in a while. She asks, hey, do you want to bake some cookies? Thank you.
I feel like she just gave us a little Christmas in July present tonight. So thank you, Sweta. That was beautiful. And everybody's stories are so fun, which is why we want to hear more of them. So we're going to take a short 10-minute intermission. You have 2 instructions. 1, order more stuff. Like, I want drinks and fries and anything we're supporting Club Passim. And then 2, you want to talk to Anna and I about telling a story, okay? We'll see you after the break.
And just so folks know that you can still order drinks. The kitchen is closing up, but you can still order drinks.
I went with you up to the place you grew up in. We spent a week in the cold, just long enough to hold in it with you any longer. It would have got old. singing Ace of Spades when Lily died, but nothing's changed. LA's alright. I'm sleeping in my bed again and getting in my head, and then walk around the reservoir. You must have been looking for me, sending smoke signals, pelicans circling, burning trash out on the beach. One of your eyes is always half shut. Something happened when you were a kid. I didn't know you then, and I'll never understand why it feels like I did. How soon is it now in an 80s sedan? You slept inside of it because your dad lived in a campground in the back of a van. You said that song will creep you out until you're dead. And you must have been looking for me, sending smoke signals, pelicans circling, burning trash out on the beach. I wanna live at the Holiday Inn where somebody else makes the bed. We'll watch TV while the lights on the street put all the stars to death. It's been on my mind since Bowie died, just checking out to hide from life. All of our Here is my day plan, here's my new machine. He's a fine new addition, so young and so clean. So young and so clean.
All right, welcome to second half. I feel like that song, A Little Help for My Friends. I want to thank some of the friends that put their names in the hat, willingly, totally excited to do this. And I also want to thank our new storyteller who also put her name in the hat. So I'm going to pull the name, and then they get to sweat for like 1 minute while I say a few more words. So our next storyteller will be Stephanie Paulette. Is it Paulette or Paulette? Pulio. Oh, well, see, I didn't even... Stephanie, woo! All right, you can take a second, gather your thoughts. But while Stephanie is doing that, I just want to say a few words. You might have heard Teresa Koken say something excited about Stories from the Stage. It's so amazing. So, Stories from the Stage is a program we started with GBH, or Massbelt started with GBH 8 years ago. And then 5 years ago, I got the craziest phone call ever. And it was from World Channel at GBH saying, do you guys want to like turn that little show you have into a national TV show? And I was like, that sounds nice. And then I hung up the phone and screamed. So we actually have a show called Stories from the Stage. It's filmed every month from GBH Studios. It was virtual for the last year and a half. Thank you to everybody who participated in that and was patient with the process. But we were super excited to go back into the studios in September. Woo! And Teresa Koken is one of the co-hosts, along with Wes Hazard. It's a real like local storytelling community. So if you want to be Teresa Koken, right there. And I mean, show of hands, how many people have actually been on national television now? We've got Susan and Chris and Scott and Harold and Linda and Anna, and all the rest of you can do it because you need no storytelling experience. We just look for fantastic story ideas. We work with you to make sure they're 6 to 7 minutes, and we're just there for you the whole time. But on your card, these are the ones that we're recruiting for right now. They are live on our website. They are by month, so Modern Family, September, and go from there. So if you know someone who has an amazing Modern Family story, pitch it to us. Or someone with a Raising the Bar story, pitch it to us and tell all your friends and family. All right, that's my last commercial. But now, our new brave storyteller, Stephanie!
Terrifying. Wow. Oh. Hi, everyone. So I would like to state that I have two friends over there that would not join me up here. I was volunteered as tribute. It was Hunger Games style. Thank you to my lovely friends who wouldn't join me. So let's see. So I am a social worker by trade. I specialize in trauma, especially high-risk teenagers and young adults. The crazier, the better. That is my favorite. That is my world. So I recently moved here from Vermont to a different world where I wasn't quite in the teenager mix anymore, and I want to be really part of this community. So I decided to mentor a teenager who was part of the juvenile delinquent program in a very high poverty, high crime rate area, because why not? I mean, I don't want to like be a big brother, big sister to a 9-year-old who doesn't have that many issues. Give me like the hard one. So I meet my little mentee. She is lovely. She wants nothing to do with me for months. I want to go to the gym, take you out to dinner, take you out to this, have fun. Nothing. She barely texts me. She went on vacation. I'm like, send me pics. I'm super excited. Nope, nothing. So she comes from a very, she doesn't go to school. She loves to fist fight. That is her favorite thing in the entire world. And it's been an interesting handful of months for us. Mom is not engaged. I really think they have some food issues. There's just a lot of stuff, right? She's a middle child. She's forgotten in the world. Nobody really cares. She has no friends. She has no way to get friends. She doesn't play sports. She lays in her bed all day. So a couple weeks ago, she messages out to me, and she was like, hey, I think I want to join the volleyball team and try out for you. Want to help me out? I'm excited. I played sports in high school. We're gonna go to the gym. It's gonna be great. I've never played volleyball. Totally fine. All's well. So we're going to the gym. She's going 3 times a week with me now. 0 to 3 times a week. She's doing fantastic. She graduated from the 8th grade a couple weeks ago. I go, let's celebrate, kiddo. She was like, okay. My family celebrates. We go to Applebee's. There's nothing wrong with Applebee's. It's totally fine. Right? And I was like, right? And she was like, but I love getting all dolled up. I was like, all right. I'll take you to a place to get all dolled up, and we're going to celebrate you graduating 8th grade, because that is an achievement in my mind for the situation that you were presented with. And my dear, you are graduating high school, and you are going to college. And if you don't, it's okay. But in my mind, like, these are all the bars I'm setting for her now. So we go to this restaurant, and it is the same price as Applebee's, honestly. It's a little nicer. So she orders her first thing, and it was macaroni and cheese. She didn't really care for it. She's picking at it. I'm like, kiddo, send the food back. She goes, no, I ordered it, this whole thing. I'm like, I don't care. Took you out to eat. I want to celebrate you. You need to eat when we celebrate. So then she's like, I'm going to order a house salad. I'm like, nope, you're going to order real food. Order the food. I'm going to pay for it. I don't care. We'll bring the leftovers home to your family. We'll make up a story about how it was extra. We ordered lots of food. We have extra, because I actually always feed her family as well whenever I feed her, because that's just who I am as a person sometimes. So food comes out. She's eating her lobster roll. She's grinning ear to ear. She's very happy. And we're talking about, people in our life. And just, growing up stuff and food stuff and friends. And, it was one of those things where you don't realize how good you've had at your life, even if we all have hard lives, until you hear someone else's story. And I've heard some stories. I've been a therapist for a long time. Boy, do I have stories. And it was really sad just hearing her story and how she has no friends, she has nobody. She's going to a new school next year. High school, guys. 9th grade high school. Holy cow, right? We're going to try to make the volleyball team on top of this. I don't even know what's going on anymore. And I was like, oh, God, we got to make volleyball. I don't know how to play volleyball. I'm going to play. We're going to make friends. You're not going to fight. You're not going to be kicked off the team. Like, my brain's going all this thing. We're talking about people in our life. And I was like, I had this aunt. My Auntie Joanne is literally her whole name. Well, that's what I called her. And I was like, she would take me out shopping. She would take me to go all these cool things. And she was like one of my people in the world when I needed a little extra. And I was like, tell me who you have. Tell me about your life. She's finally opening up to me, guys. And I have a soft spot in my heart for this kid. And she's like, well, my aunties sometimes would drop off necessities to us. Body wash, shampoos, and stuff. And I was like, okay, totally fine, totally understand. I was like, what about, going to the beach, having some fun, going to the park? She's like, I don't have anyone. Okay, that's okay. It's like, what about, people to, bring you school clothes shopping? She's like, well, I don't have anyone. Okay, that's okay, too. Totally okay. So the waitress comes out, and she brings, so I sort of, let them know ahead of time, we're celebrating. So they bring out a little chocolate molten cake, and the waitress comes up, and she was very sweet. And she was like, you need to celebrate everything in life, no matter how big or small it is. Congratulations on graduating 8th grade. So now she's crying. So we're talking again about, things she wants to do and people and these kinds of things. And I was like, well, there has to be somebody in your life, kiddo, that has always been there for you and always do good things, that can take you to do fun things and make you feel special, make you feel good. She says, well, Steffi, I have you. And I love her. She's graduating high school and all the things. Thanks, guys.
See, anybody can tell a story on demand. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm so excited. And your friends are super jealous. They want to do it too. They just don't know it yet. I also love that you're a mentor. We need more of those. Although I will say, when you're a mentor, you don't know, things can come out of the blue. I was a big brother or big sister in the Big Brother Big Sister program, and my little sister in Baltimore had never gone to the Children's Museum, and that was fine. I was excited to take her. She was 12, but she had never gone to the kiddie section, like the 6 and under section, because she felt like she missed that, so she wanted us to go to the 6 and under section. Which the 6 and under section at the Children's Museum in Baltimore is like this wall of tubes that go through the hallways, and you crawl in there like a little baby, and you touch felt and touch metal and touch wood. The problem is it's made for 6-year-olds, and she didn't want to do it unless I did it, and I am not 6. And I was crawling through the little tunnels and doing the thing, and I am claustrophobic as a human. And I mean, really, like this room probably feels claustrophobic. And I am in this tunnel, and my little backpack gets stuck, and I can't move forward or backwards. And she's not going to move unless I move. And so she starts crying, and then I start crying. I am a 32-year-old woman crying in a 6-year-old tub in the Baltimore Children's Museum. And all I'll say about that experience is that somebody should tell the adults that all you have to do is push up on the ceiling, because it just opens. Like, you can get out at any point. Because if you don't tell them this, the way you find out is when, like, the pimple 13-year-old kid takes the top off, looks down for the kid, and sees you bawling. So that's what happens when you're a mentor sometimes. Now, I'm riffing because I have just asked my good friends if they would tell a story seconds ago, and they are going to. So I want to give you, 35 more seconds. Do you feel totally ready, Teresa? All right, folks, the co-host of Stories for the Stage, longtime supporter of Mass Mouth and storytelling, and everybody, Teresa Koken.
I'm the opposite of Scott. That's a real scary introduction to have when I am not prepared. All right, here we go. So when I was joining the Peace Corps, I joined the gym because I decided that Peace Corps volunteers needed to be prepared to climb a mountain and then canoe themselves through a river to get to the place where they lived. So I joined a gym. I ended up living in a city in the Peace Corps, so I didn't need to be in any canoes or climb any mountains. But what I got out of it was my yoga practice, because I started going to the gym in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I fucking hated going to the gym. It sucks. And I was going on the elliptical machines all the time, so I'm just on these elliptical machines, I'm like, this is horrible. There was this room off to the side of where all of the machines were, and on Tuesday nights or something, when people came out of that room, they were always smiling. And I was like, I want to do whatever the people in that room are doing, because they don't look miserable like I feel on this elliptical machine. And they were doing yoga. So I started going to yoga classes at this gym and just developed this really important to my life, really central in my life practice of yoga that I took with me when I went to the Peace Corps, and then I moved to Chicago after Peace Corps, and after a year I moved here to Boston. And really the one constant in my life since 2006 was yoga, was that I practiced yoga, and it would always just ground me and keep me solid and keep me feeling solid. So I was working at a group home a couple of years after I moved here to Boston, and at a training at the group home, they were talking about this concept of approach to therapy or mental health or something along those lines. I don't quite remember. And I remember sitting in this training and thinking to myself, if they condense this multi-month practice of working with someone who's experiencing complex trauma, it would be a really solid yoga class. If you could just make that happen in 1 hour instead of over the course of months. And so I was like, I wonder if anybody does that. I wonder if anybody does yoga as therapy or as a response to trauma. So I started Googling, because what else would you do? I started Googling, and I found that that is a thing, that trauma responsive yoga was a thing. And so I decided I'm going to become a yoga teacher so that I can then become a trauma responsive yoga teacher, and then I can teach yoga in group homes and in homeless shelters and things like that, because those are the kinds of locations where I tended to work as a social worker. So I did it. I convinced my job that yoga teacher training was the same thing as college tuition, and got them to pay for my class because I didn't have any money because I was a social worker, so I couldn't afford the training. And they paid for my class, and I completed that class, and then I completed additional training in trauma responsive yoga. And I applied for a grant from Rosie's Place here in Boston. And I was awarded that grant, and also figured out how to write a grant by going on Google and typing in how do I write a grant. And I got that money. I got $40,000 to start a program that would allow me to teach trauma responsive yoga around Boston to women living in homeless shelters and substance recovery programs. I taught in like affordable housing communities. I taught in alternative schools. I taught in hospitals. I taught all over the place. And I did this from, my fellowship year was 2015 to 2016. And then I continued to teach through my program Legit Yoga in 2017 and 2018. In 2017, I did my independent contractor primary income taxes on my own for the first time. And I owed about $2,000 federally because that's what happens when you work independently. And I owed about $500 to the state. In 2018, I owed the same thing. By 2019, I was working at the ACLU, and my first week at the ACLU, I checked my bank account because I was going to go take myself out to lunch, and I checked my bank account, and I was negative in my primary checking, my secondary checking, and my savings account. I was negative in all of my accounts because the state of Massachusetts had levied my accounts. That's a thing that can happen. Pay your taxes, people. The state of Massachusetts had levied my accounts for $1,000, and Bank of America had taken 3 times that amount of money from all of my accounts. So I was extremely negative in every single account. And it took weeks of calling customer service at Bank of America, going to Bank of America in Rosendale, crying at Bank of America to try to get them to give me back this money. It was just like all of a sudden I was completely broke and eating food that my neighbors were giving me for free. Ira Glass once said that his favorite kinds of stories have a happy, sad ending. So I will tell you that the ending to this story is that I did get all of my money back. It really broke me. And real shortly after that, I stopped teaching yoga. I really lost my yoga practice entirely. The one upside is that I have now finally paid off almost all of my back taxes, the thousands of dollars in back taxes that I owed federally and to the state. And hopefully I'll be able to buy a home in my home of Boston soon because I'm close to being debt-free. Thank you.
So Teresa moved during or right before to Providence of the pandemic? Like during the pandemic, she up and moved to Providence, and my heart, hurt a little bit because she's been part of Boston's scene. And then today she's like, I think I'm moving back, and my heart exploded. So just keep it on our toes. Yeah, lots of wonderful things in Providence. Nothing against Providence. We just love that she's coming back. I also will say in all seriousness, Teresa did incredible work during that period. I'm sorry it's been whatever the right word is by the tax part, but I used to love to read her posts about what people said leaving your class, and I just always really admired it. So you have made a difference in people's lives, so don't forget. I've also recruited one more person to tell a story. If you're following the chart and you're like, why'd she stop drawing names? It's just because I forgot. But there was only 2 left, so I just told who was going first. So we've got Linda, Scott, Harold, Shweta, Stephanie, Teresa, and last but certainly not least, former Mass Mouth board member, recent storyteller on Stories from the Stage, and more importantly, just a great friend, Miss Sonia Babalia. Woo! And as a reminder, right after this, you're going to fill out your audience choice forms, and you're going to put a check in the first choice column and the second column also, not the same person. Like, they can't win both categories. All right, Sonia.
Whatever. The last few times I've done this, I've always had a beer in my hand, and they close the bar. So it's like when you're playing darts and the guys say, "Oh, it's a balance thing." It's like that. I am one of those true psychopaths who is absolutely stoked to be back in the office. After COVID, everyone talking about working from home. I want to stay home forever. That is the worst thing you can do for me. I work in the sports and live entertainment industry, so the most depressing thing that could happen is to work in that world from a 300 square foot apartment. Or worse, my second working location, my parents' basement filled with spiders that is slightly larger than my 300 square foot apartment. I started my job in sports and entertainment in September 2019. It was the end of a pretty disappointing baseball season. Had about 2-3 weeks to at least enjoy the spirit of live games, whatever, live shows. And then came the off season, and I was like, great, off season, it's a little bit calmer, learning opportunity, finally working in my dream industry. And this is just like a great time to slow down, pick people's brains, and all that kind of stuff. Learn what like a real full baseball season would look like. December comes around, you're planning for the spring. January comes around, you're planning for spring training. Spring training comes around, you're planning for the regular season. But then this thing called a pandemic happens, and spring training's cut short, and oh, maybe we'll start the season in mid-July, but the season doesn't start. We do figure out how to play a season, a shortened one that starts in July, except that I'm not even allowed anywhere near the ballpark. I'm not allowed to watch live games, and in the meantime, my cable provider has cut NESN, so I can't even watch games if I want to. Well, I mean, I could switch cable providers, but that's a pain in the ass. So I spend the off season, instead of like having, I also live in the neighborhood, so I can't even like, I hear fake fan noise. I don't hear real fan noise. I don't hear concerts. I don't hear any of that. And I think my off season is going to be about learning this industry. Instead, I'm up to my neck in COVID regulations. What's the state doing? What's the city doing? Why is the city doing this, but the state's doing this? I don't know. I'm just on Twitter all day trying to figure it out, but also on Twitter, like doom scrolling. I spend a year doing this. The off season comes around. We still don't know what's going on. I've been in my job for a year, and I'm like, okay, not what I expected. It's really tough because I'm in live sports and live entertainment, and I'm still working from home from a 300 square foot apartment that now maybe has a mouse. I don't know. It's Boston. I'm surrounded by restaurants, so probably a mouse. I go home again, more spiders. There's nothing to do out where my parents live. Oh, there's also a bear down the street. I'm back in Boston, and this is just like, I can't do this. So finally, the vaccines come out, and I am just like ready with my arm out, like anyone with a needle, with, I don't care which one it is, just like stab me in the arm, because I'm ready. I'm just like, open the office, please open the office. Finally, they tell us, yeah, you can come back if you're vaccinated, it's optional, sure. I am there day one. No one else is. I go back on day 2 for a few hours. No one else is there. People are here, there, the next couple weeks. I'm dying for human contact. I'm also forgetting to wear deodorant because it's like, I haven't had to do that in here. What, pants? Like, okay. There's no one here. I can wear something that's not business casual. But slowly things are coming back, and you know, we're playing a full season again. We're playing a regular season. I'm allowed in the ballpark, and everything just starts to shift. Go from 12% capacity to 25% capacity. Seemingly overnight, we're at full capacity again, and games are being played, fans are cheering. But the office is an interesting place. Not everyone is back. Not a lot of people to talk to. I'm still forgetting to wear deodorant. So it's a situation of, oh wait, home was kind of nice. I had all my snacks. Half the reason I don't spend a full day at work is because I'm out of snacks. Maybe home was really good. But then I find out, you know what, Sonia, all you need to do is like start cooking again. And you have all your snacks. Go to work. It's 3 blocks down the street. So now I'm back. Feels good. Ceiling might be crumbling, but old building, it's fine. But people are slowly coming back in, and I get to see baseball, and life is good. That's it.
Thank you, Sonia. It seems like the perfect story to end on, given that we're all back here tonight. So one thing we all learned during the pandemic is we can be flexible, right? So we were supposed to have 8. Guess what? We're just going to do 7. That's how you solve this problem. We were going to have 7 tonight, right? So this is your chance. You're going to take your form. And your first choice, we have Linda again, Scott, Harold, Shweta, Stephanie, Teresa, and Sonia. Check in the first column, and your second choice in the second column, and we are going to aggregate them and announce who the true audience choice winner is. Meanwhile, I will riff. But in all seriousness, actually, I'll let you vote, and then I'll talk for a second. So make your big decisions. And Chris or Anna will pick them up. It's also a great time to follow us on social media. So we usually don't do slams during the summer. We usually just have special showcases or other events, but we were just too tired, like Sonia, being at home. So we were like, we're coming back to the Club Pass theme. So please tell folks, we're going to keep building the audience again. We'll be here next month. The theme is Overboard. And the month after that, we're doing Let It Roll. So start percolating your stories. We'll be back here. The crowds will keep growing. We're really glad that you are like catalysts for that tonight. Chris, we're still collecting. Nope, just checking. So while they tabulate the votes, I'll tell a very short story. So how many people have hit the road, like gone on a proper road trip since the vaccinations? Only one? All right, so I have a tattoo that says traveler, so literally I drove across the country. My best friend Heather said she wanted to move to San Fran. I was like, I'm going to go with you, even though she had a cat. I deeply hate cats. This is not a story about that, but I can't wait to tell that story because we broke down 4 times on that trip. There are many, many gems of moments. We actually say we broke down 6 times because 2 were emotional. But the thing is, when my husband and I talked about me doing this trip, he's like, that's a long way, you're going to be a good trip. And I was like, well, the last time I drove across the country was to Portland, Oregon, when I was from Portland, Maine, because I saw an ad in Greyhound, and it said $50 anywhere in the country. And I was 18, I was like, I'm going to go the distance. When you're 18, and maybe still today at 43, I don't read the small details. It's not a talent I really have. But the small details said you cannot, you have to change the bus within a 30-minute period. It wasn't like I could, go to Chicago, see some sights, get back on the bus, go to Wisconsin. We didn't figure that out until we were in New Jersey, the first 4 hours of the trip. Folks, that was a 3.5-day trip on a Greyhound bus, nonstop. Now, in the beginning, I had a Walkman, so I had to buy a lot of batteries really quickly because it was going to run out. Also, in the beginning, I was sitting next to my best friend, Jenna. About 12 hours in, we were not sitting together anymore. In fact, we were across the aisle at best. We were eating snacks from the 7-Eleven. If the Greyhound even stopped there. We were peeing in the back of the bus in a place I not to even think about. Some of the people were wonderful to talk to, but again, I'm not sleeping. I'm 3.5 days on this bus. We are now 2 hours outside of Portland, Oregon. I can just see the homeland. And we're going to spend the summer there. It's going to be amazing, but we just have to get 2 more hours. But we make a stop. We make a stop in a town that has nobody there. There's the bus rolls up to a single sign. And we get back on, and all of a sudden the bus driver says, so folks, I have 26 tickets, but there's 27 people on this bus. And he's like, please take out your tickets, right? Because that's actually when we had paper tickets. And he starts down the aisle, and people are shaking up their Greyhound tickets, and I look for mine. And right when I turn around, the gentleman across the aisle, who's sitting behind my friend Jenna, takes out a knife, and he starts hitting the back of her seat. And the thing is, folks, I'd like to tell you I was scared, but I was too tired to be scared. I was like, what is happening? And I was like, Jenna, and I didn't even say it with like love or just, I just was like, Jenna, I think you should move. And she's like, what? And I was like, this, which really is not great. I was like, just move. So she moves up one seat while I try to like mime gentleman's hitting with a knife. And then the bus driver comes towards me, and I'm like, I don't think he has a ticket. Like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a ticket. And I am not making this up. I can be a dramatic person. I'm a storyteller. I can embellish. But the bus driver looks at me. He looks at my ticket. He looks at the guy with the knife, and he goes, I'll be right back. Like, he goes to call the police, right? Because this is pre-cell phones. And so he runs off the bus. The people around me start running off the bus. And I can be a little bit like, I like to be heroic. I come from a family of emergency room doctors and like ER and policemen and firemen. So I think I'm going to stay. And I don't really have a plan except like talk the guy out of like stabbing my friend's chair with a knife. And she's already like left. So I'm like, sir, can you like give me the knife? And I'm not really having any luck. And I don't remember this part. I remember it just all happening really quickly. And then the bus driver came back on, and he like yells at me to get off the bus, which was the smart thing to do, right? So like I go off the bus, and then the police run on the bus, and it was like chaos and whatever, and they drag the guy off. And long story short, I guess he was like tripping on acid, and I don't know. But he definitely did not have a ticket. And at that point, like he has already interrupted my 34-hour voyage to Oregon. We have to spend another hour and a half with like police interviews. Like there's this little like paperwork, and then like the bus driver's like, oh, I think my shift's gonna be over, and I'm like, holy shit. It was 3.5 more hours, maybe 4, I don't even remember, I'm still in like denial, until I got to Portland, Oregon. And I thought that that trip was going to rival, like be the worst travel experience. But this other trip I just did had 4 breakdowns and 2 plus emotional. I don't know which one wins, but I'm not sure I'd tell you to travel around the country across a bus or a car right now. But I would encourage you to do maybe some like local road trips. Just start there. It looks like we have a winner. Can I have the slip of paper, please? And again, thanks for coming out. Like, it's just nice to be with friends, let's be honest. And if you don't know everybody else, like meet each other, like shake some hands. But I have not done this in 2.5 years, or 2 years, right? 2 years? God, it's crazy. In second place, our good friend, Harold Cox. Woo! And a new face, although I know not virtually. She's been doing a lot of virtual telling, but first-time teller here at Club Passim, Sweta. Woo! If I could get all the storytellers up on stage for like the first photo back on stage, that'd be awesome. All the storytellers on stage for a photo if you want. But everybody else, thank you. Tell your friends. We'll see you next month.